So after I did Avowed not too long back, it was pointed out that ages ago I reviewed a game called Unavowed, and now all I need is to review a game called Disavowed, and I've covered the entire spectrum of avowing, or profession progression. Hang on a sec, hasty Steam search. Oh, what do you know? Well, I ain't reviewing that, looks like crap. Point is, I didn't think Unavowed was half bad, and now the developer, Yahtzee Games, has a new one out to continue spreading the good word of traditional point-and-click puzzling, faintly stereotypical depictions of New York City, the viability of Adventure Game Studio as a commercial dev platform, and remarkably good shoulder posture. In an alternative future New York, where modern technology has all but wiped out scoliosis, time travel exists and is strictly controlled by the authorities. But in an interesting contrast to how this usually works, the authorities aren't particularly hard line about not changing history. They kind of treat it like marijuana. Yes, we legalized it because we know you fuckers are going to use it anyway, and this way we can regulate it, but that doesn't mean you get to take the piss. You still can't drive down the high street distributing blunts to the crowd with a snow shovel. So future corporation Chronozen might sound like a doomed tech startup that sells digital watches that don't work unless you download an app, but it's actually a time travel company that charges rich clients through the nose to take holidays in the past, and even lets them apply to make changes to history that are assessed on a case-by-case basis, kind of like the way the American government treats human rights violations. But you can't let the genetically engineered descendants of Mark Zuckerberg run around history willy-nilly, and that's where our protagonist comes in, Fia Quinn, agent of Chronozen, whose job is to escort wealthy clients to the past, keep them and history safe, and come down like a ton of bricks on anyone trying to get in some sneaky grandmother porking. The game spans multiple chapters covering multiple jobs to a variety of temporal versions of New York City, including the present, the near future, the 19th century, the roaring 20s, and the period just before and just after 9/11, which is the point where we all tug our collars and make a noise like Jerry Lewis trying to walk a tightrope. Will a day ever come when a time travel story can feature the 9/11 attacks without coming across a bit Probably not in my lifetime. I mean, I still remember them. I was a teenager. I very clearly recall seeing those towers come down and being almost unable to finish that day's second wank. But the time travel adventures give way to a compelling character story about Fia herself, who, along with the rest of Chronozen having been time-locked to prevent being erased by history changes, has to deal with getting through daily life when everyone she knows, every book she reads, and every artisanal backstreet coffee shop she frequents might get erased and replaced with a Petco by the end of tomorrow's shift. I think Yahtzee Games have strong writing, but I also feel their characters tend to have an interchangeable quality, which might be partly explained by them all looking the fucking same. It's painfully obvious that every character in Old Skies was made with the same animation template, because they've all got the exact same stance. Shoulders back, hips cocked, feet apart. Every now and again they do some kind of bespoke action or gesture, and then they snap right back to the jeans model pose before you notice how dodgy the tweening looks. Everyone's got the same walk too, a sort of determined casual saunter that looks like they've just put the baby down at 3 in the morning and are praying to teddy bear Jesus that they'll be able to leave the room before the little fucker starts crying again. Very smoothly animated, but it makes me think of games like Chrono Trigger with pixels like a square feet of a mosaic bathroom floor and fewer frames than a burnt down art supplies shop. But every character has life and personality because of the unique way they move, and it's a million times more visually pleasing than every character using 100 million frames to mosey across flat backdrops in perfect unison. There were moments when I couldn't tell if character A looked exactly like a young version of character B because the game was setting up a time travel related twist, or if the artist had just cheaped out, recolored a pre-existing hairdo and was hoping I wouldn't notice. My other issue is puzzle design. At any given moment in Old Skies, you are always on a perfectly straight line to the next solution. You'll be lucky if there's more than 1 or 2 rooms you can access, and any attempt to interact with anything but the intended solution will result in a verbal spit in the eye. I don't need to worry about that. I don't need to go there. I'm done with that thing. How do you know you're done with that thing, Fia Quinn? I don't know, maybe the upturned bucket we used to get the cat down from the potting shed might work equally well to knock out the curious policeman or function as an amusing hat. I mean, God forbid I might be curious and want to explore this historical setting I'm on an amazing time travel adventure in. God forbid I might want to talk to someone about something other than whatever petty step in the puzzle sequence I'm currently laser fixated on. Maybe I want to go to the window washers on September 10th, 2001 and tell them they can probably phone it in a bit today. I suppose it does mean we never get entrenched in any of that legendary adventure game moon logic for very long, but the laser focus of proceedings can lead to things feeling very contrived. For example, we find ourselves at one point needing to stop an assassination 20 years in the future, and as luck would have it, happen to be in a room containing nothing but the very shoes the assassin will be wearing in 20 years, and a prototype voice-activated explosive with precisely a 20-year shelf life. Other moments feel contrived in other ways, like the instance where we get cold-bloodedly shot by an angry cop, unless we choose the exact right conversation options that will convince said cop that gunning down unarmed white women is bad, actually, and might be frowned upon by society. But in the end, I was engaged by the story of Old Skies, and was quite affected by the ending. The game effectively pulls us out of Fia's head as time goes on, as she starts making decisions independent of our control in a way that sort of mirrors her growing dissatisfaction with the rules that govern her existence, and in the end, she triumphs by breaking free of her protagonist obligations. It's very apt. All wacky future time travel contrivances aside, the plot at heart is about the frustrations of being stuck in one place, while everything changes around you. And that's pretty relatable. Also pretty analogous to the state of point-and-click adventure games as a genre, now that I'm writing it down. Ooh, now there's an idea. A time travel adventure game where the entire adventure game genre tries to change its fate by travelling back in time to the early 1970s and strangling John Carmack to death in the crib.
This video is brought to you by GameMaker. And if you've ever wanted to get into game development, GameMaker does this really crazy thing where it's free. Just start making and only pay when you want to release your game to the world commercially.
It's fast, it's user-friendly, and there's easy-to-follow tutorials, plus a dedicated community to help answer even my questions. How make man jump? GameMaker is a 2D game engine that's helped bring some of yours and my favorite recent experiences to life, like UFO 50, Chicory, Anton Blast, and of course, Yahtzee's own Starstruck Vagabond.
Ooh, are we talking about Game Maker? I love that program, it's so easy to use. As well as Starstruck Vagabond, I also used it to make all 12 projects in my 12 games in 12 months Dev Diary challenge. And I couldn't believe how much sex I got out of that. None. I got none at all. Which I couldn't believe.
So what are you waiting for? Head on over to the GameMaker link in the description and start cracking away today, because we want to play your game.
Yeah, looking through this list, I'm seeing one of you made Armpit Fart Tycoon, and I've got several questions for you.